This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
David Rush has willingly been hit 96 times in the face with wet sponges in a single minute, and for that, he, along with Jonathan Hannon, the man tossing the sponges, has yet another Guinness World Record. David personally holds more than 181 Guinness World Record titles. He has 47 that he jointly holds with Jonathan. David joins us from Idaho via Riverside.com. Hi, David.
Hello, Peter. It's good to chat with you today.
It's great to have you on the program. Thank you very much for being here. So I'll just ask the first question right off the bat, and that is simply, why?
So I started breaking Guinness World Records titles to promote STEM education. It's science, technology, engineering, math, to show students that if you set your mind to go, believe in yourself, and pursue it with a passion, you could accomplish virtually anything. And I started with juggling records and then balancing, and then it has since branched out to I can learn any new skill. If I see a record, I'll be like, hey, do I want to spend some time practicing to break that? And then I also got to hang out with my best friend, Jonathan Hollywood Hannon, and so we could do these two-person records together. I found out he was ambidextrous, and so when he's throwing stuff at me, he can throw both hands. And when it's most hits in a minute, and he can throw two at a time or use two hands at a time, we can get a bunch of those throwing, catching, hitting records. And so this falls in that category.
Since you brought up his ambidextrous trait, let's talk about this current one, which is the most times being hit in the face with a wet sponge. How did this come about? I mean, was this something that was already in the record book? How do you decide to go and do a particular feat?
Yeah, so I've broken over 350 Guinness World Records titles at this point. Currently hold somewhere on the order of 190 with records that have been broken. Most of those, the vast majority, probably 90 to 95% existed already, which means it was in the Guinness World Records database, and I saw the record. I either saw it on Guinness World Records YouTube channel or in the book, or somebody had posted something on it, like, hey, that's something I could do, especially those two persons ones with a throwing one. They always jump up to be like, hey, let's do that together with my friend Jonathan. And this falls into that category.
So what was the toughest part of being hit 96 times with wet sponges?
So it's kind of uncomfortable because the sponges have to be fully immersed in the water before they get thrown, and then they're coming at my face, pretty quick, and you're not allowed to wear goggles or anything like that, so you got to shut your eyes. His aim's pretty good, but I do need to adjust most of the time because it has to hit you square in the face. If it glances off the side of the face or hits in the ear or something, it doesn't count. So I got to move into position, and then the sponge is hitting my face, and those are some of the scratchy sponges. You got to shut the eyes before it hits the face, and then you have to open up again in the split second as that next sponge is coming at you, and then you got that blurry water in the eyes. Get your head in position and then shut it again, close to 2 times a second.
Did you practice this beforehand, or did you just do it in the competition?
Yeah, so this one actually requires a substantial amount of practice. In fact, there's a most wet sponge hits to the face in 30 seconds and 1 minute. And I think this was our fifth time doing those records. So we practiced for it substantially. I think we've broken the 30-second one 3 times, and this was the second time going after that 1 minute record because we broke somebody else's record. Our record was broken, and we had to take it back.
With the titles that you have jointly with Jonathan, do you do everything? In other words, are you the victim in all of these, or is sometimes he the victim?
I wouldn't say victim, but in many cases, I am the victim. There's the hardest one we've done together is actually the most baseball passes between a pair in 1 minute. And in that case, we're both doing the exact same thing, catching the baseball, taking it out of our gloves, and throwing it back and forth 10 meters. And that one took probably a year of practice before we were able to successfully do that. And that has been challenged by professional baseball players on TV shows. And the best they were able to do was actually tie our record. One that he was more the victim on was the most ping pong balls caught in shaving foam on the head in 30 seconds. And in that case, I was actually the thrower, and the shaving foam was on Jonathan. And so I threw, he caught. And that's one where I would consider him the victim because he had all the shaving foam on him.
Well, speaking of distance, how far were you from Jonathan when you were being pelted by these sponges?
Oh, I don't remember if this was a 3 meter or a 5 meter. This must have been a 3 meter one because it didn't seem that far away. But it could have been five. I don't actually remember.
Are there any records? I mean, since you hold so many of them, are there any records that have eluded you? There's something that, your great white whale that you've tried and you just couldn't master?
Actually, the very first one I tried to break was the fastest half mile run while juggling. And the record was, I think, around 2 minutes, 13 seconds for a half mile. So, a little under 4:30 pace. And I trained for over 2 years, ran over 2,000 miles trying to get that one. And at the end of all that, I ended up hurting my knee. And at that point, I had a decision to make: is do I give up on my dream of breaking the very first Guinness World Records title, or do I pivot? And what I talk to students about, they'll struggle at science and fail at math and say, hey, I could never become an engineer. But if they have grit and a growth mindset and believe they can accomplish it, I do believe you can learn any new skill. And so, even though I couldn't run for probably a year and a half because of this injury, I decided to pivot to practice for longest duration blindfolded juggling and broke my very first record in 2015 with that at 6 minutes 35 seconds. I've gone on to break that record multiple times now and hold it at an hour and 2 minutes of blindfolded juggling. But I haven't gone back to go after that half mile run while juggling record. And at 40 years old, I'm not sure I'm going to get the speed necessary to ever take that one down. But it's always been in the back of my mind. Am I going to go after that one or not?
Well, you've already mentioned earlier why you've done all these things and what was your motivation. What is your day job?
So for most of the time, I worked in tech. I'm a product manager. I've got an electrical engineering degree from MIT and MBA. And so I work as a product manager making wireless routers. And I worked at a startup company in Boise for 13 years. Left that for a couple years to be a full-time keynote speaker, stay-at-home dad, and travel the world. And now I'm back working in tech as a product manager at another cellular technology company called Digi International.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, has any of the contests that you've entered in, and first of all, I mentioned that you hold 181 Guinness World Record titles and you have 47 jointly with Jonathan. Is that collectively? In other words, overall you have 181? Or do you add the ones you had with Jonathan on top of that?
Yes. So there's a couple ways to count. One is the records broken in total. So I've broken over 350 Guinness World Records titles. 47 of those 350 were with Jonathan Hollywood Hannon. But sometimes those records are surpassed either by me or somebody else, or somebody else will break it and I take it back. And so that, if I've broken the same record multiple times, it fits into that 350. That 181 is what I currently hold, that has it's titles that are currently in my name that have not been surpassed by somebody else at the time. I currently held with Jonathan Hollywood Hannon is going to be somewhere around 20-ish. I don't know what the exact number is on that one, but we currently hold probably around 20 of those 47 today.
Now, I've seen some of these Guinness World Record events that have taken place, and usually when you win or you surpass another title, you get this plaque. How many of these things do you have, and where do you put them all? Do you have a wall?
Yeah, so you get a paper certificate for all of them, or previously you did, and I've got 350 of those, and I actually just have a stack of them in the top shelf of one of my son's closets. Occasionally, I'll pull them out to take some pictures or something, and then I'd maybe have three or four of them in a frame that I might travel around when I'm doing a keynote talk with. But for the most part, they stay in a stack on the shelf of the closet.
Are any of your titles or any of the things you've attempted actually dangerous?
There are several records that are dangerous. One of the most difficult ones I've got is the most kiwis sliced in 1 minute with a samurai sword while standing on a Swiss exercise ball. And so it's a razor sharp samurai sword with a pointy point, and I'm standing on, that round Swiss exercise ball that's bouncy, and so it's pretty unstable. And so if I were to fall off of that ball, there's plenty of, force that if I landed on that sword wrong, it could be devastating. And so that's one of those ones that I'm like, hey, I do not want to make a mistake. And then there's others that are dangerous for different reasons, like the longest duration juggling at over, 13 hours, 10 minutes now, or the furthest distance traveled while juggling on foot. So I ran 29 miles straight while juggling, and obviously have cramps and issues like that with dehydration and such.
Have you ever been hurt?
I've definitely had some injuries in my time. I've had some nicks there with the samurai swords or juggling knives while slicing apples. The biggest injuries actually are more like the lower back ones. I've got a bunch of records for balancing things on my face, like the longest time to balancing a running lawnmower on the chin, or the longest time to balance a running chainsaw on the chin. Those have the risk factor of those running items that could, hit my face. But the injuries are actually the lower back, the pain from holding all that weight uh, along the center of my body for that long. And it's usually, the neck hurts in the moment, but it's the lower back that really gets injured if I'm not careful about ramping up the weight, especially during the training, preparing for an attempt.
We all do crazy things in life, and those crazy things we tend to enjoy. And we don't necessarily see the risks in doing something. But you are a multiple Guinness World Record holder, and you've already mentioned that all of your certificates are in your son's drawer. If your son decided that he wanted to follow in your footsteps, would you be proud or aghast?
Uh, you know, it's a family activity already. I've got two sons and a 2-year-old daughter. Sons are 9 and 7. One of the ones is the fastest time to do a 10-meter stroller push, and my son was the one that was in the stroller, and he absolutely loved participating with that one on me. And so we have a lot of fun doing the records together. Like the longest time to keep 3 balloons in the air. My kids all love playing keepy uppy with those balloons with me. So it's a lot of fun to make it a family activity and spend time doing those challenges together.
This year is the 70th anniversary of Guinness, and they have, for their anniversary, revealed some unclaimed record titles on their website. Are these any of the titles that you would like to attain?
Possibly, I'm not sure off the top of my head what those titles are, though.
Okay, well, I'll mention some of them. Most whoopee cushions sat on in 1 minute. Further distance bottle flip. Most high fives in 30 seconds. I think you can do that with your sons. Fastest 400-meter sack race, and there are several others.
Any of those would definitely be options for me. I believe that anyone can learn any new skill, and even if you're not good at it when you start, you can train to become better at anything. And so, if I were to go after one of those records, I'd have confidence that I could break it.
Maybe your two sons could do this next one. Most leapfrog jumps in 1 hour by a team of two.
That would be a fun one, but exhausting.
Most stackable potato chip crisps eaten in 1 minute. Most table tennis balls held in one hand. Most t-shirts put on in 30 seconds.
Wait a second. Most t-shirts put on in 30 seconds. I think I hold that one.
You hold that one?
Yeah, I think I got 20 t-shirts put on in 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, the Guinness World Records people apparently say that's up for grabs.
Yeah, I think there's up for grabs doesn't necessarily mean somebody doesn't hold it, but somebody could certainly go after that record.
Well, congratulations on all that you've done. People can check out your YouTube page for any of the things that you've done in the past, and it's very delightful and very fun. And again, you're doing it for a good cause, so kudos to you.
Hey, Peter, thanks so much for having me on.
Multiple Guinness World Record holder David Rush. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0838, and you'll find the links to David's site and also his YouTube page.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.